Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. In the month of September, that's Suicide Prevention Month, we're here to talk with Howard Schlick, the owner of S&J Towing, but also a NASCAR owner who has graciously supported OC Autism all these years. We are part of the autism community, the autism family, but also the part of the NASCAR, the race family. So Howard, what does it mean to you to have so many family and network of support as you go through life and dealing with autism, dealing with mental health, and also now dealing with suicide that happens in your race family?
Yeah.
What does it feel like to have that network support?
Well, you know, the racing industry is a family. Like I said before, everybody gets together. Before each race, we have a prayer. We go to the drivers all go to church. Drivers and car owners all go to church, and we all talk about things like that.
Okay.
I have a couple of friends of mine who support autism, but they live way up northern California. And one of them name's Carlos Vieira. You know, he raced with autism. He owns a big 5150 energy drink company.
Okay.
And every can he sells, he donates 3 cents to autism. And which is it's a family thing. So the good thing about it is, like, we get together only once a month. Everybody gets together, and it's for a 3-day affair where we sit and talk to people. And the stuff with Ron, Passion Ron, everybody loved Ron. Ron's been in the business for 35 years.
Wow.
Everybody knew him. And my son hooked on, they just clicked the first time they met. And so
but then his suicide, how did that impact your car family, your NASCAR family?
It devastated everybody.
Okay.
Like I said, the week before, he raced the week before, and everybody was around. The guy was the nicest guy you ever knew.
Aww.
Everybody, he took everybody under your wing, you know, and he raced 30 years ago in NASCAR.
Was there any signs or any symptoms? Did anybody know anything was wrong?
Not. We had lunch with him 4 days prior to him after the race.
Okay.
You know, and matter of fact, my good friend Dave, you know, Dave Reed, who's one of with Approved Memory, is his best friend. He played golf with him that morning.
Wow.
And when he called, and he knew Ricky, my son, and him were very special, and he called me first, says, Howard, I got something bad to tell you. Should I call your son? I said, Dave, no, tell me. You know, so he told me, and when I told my son, and it was devastating to and he's only 20, my son was 24. And it's a guy who, they talked weekly.
Wow.
For somebody unexpectedly do something like that is...
You know, and so I think Ron Esau, to your son Ricky Schlick, was like his father on the racetrack, right?
Yes.
You're his birth father,
yes.
and he loves you to death, but Ron was his mentor,
right? And
making sure that he gets back on the track. So I know you mentioned that, you know, because of the suicide, it was hard on your son. You know?
Very much so, you know, and to do something like that is, like people say, it's unpredictable.
Right. Yeah.
You see somebody one day and they're gone the next.
Yeah.
Who can predict something like that? You can't.
Yeah.
God's the only person takes care of that, and he took care of my son very well.
Oh.
You know.
Well, Howard, my condolences to you and your family and to Ron's family, because, you know, for us, I hear so many times that for suicide, they always say they were so happy, or I didn't see anything wrong. There were no signs. And that's what I hope that today's show reminds everybody, that I have depression too. And I had a period where I had suicide ideation. I always remind people that the happiest people are probably the most depressed people. The people with the big smiles on their Facebook. I have 10,000 selfies on my phone, but no one will ever know that I'm depressed. Or when I tell people I'm depressed, or when I tell someone I'm suicidal, no one believed me. And I had the strength to ask for help, but I couldn't get the help. You know, so I hope that today's show reminds people to reach out to people, to call people, to visit people, even if you think they're happy. Right. So thank you, Howard, for sharing that journey. And I know it's a very private journey, but thank you for sharing your NASCAR family with the world.
Oh, yeah.
Julie Diệp cảm ơn quý vị. Hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Howard Schlick. Howard Schlick là một cái NASCAR owner, and với Dave Reed đã ủng hộ cho đến là sponsor cho cái race car cho con của Howard là Ricky Schlick để cho come back on the track và để lái xe ngày 17 tháng 9 lúc 4 giờ tới 11 giờ tối at Urbandale Speedway. Một cái ngày đây là không phải là một ngày là gây quỹ cho OC Autism hay gây quỹ cho giúp mọi người mà có mental health difficulty, mà có cái khó khăn đó, mà thiệt ra một cái ngày đây là một cái ngày mình để dành để cho mình celebrate cái cuộc đời, cái life của anh Ron Isao. Ron là một người mà là mắc nặng về suicide, về tự tử, mà cũng là một người ủng hộ cho con của Howard để cho thành cái người race car driver. So hy vọng quý vị có thời gian thì tới tham dự cái chương trình đây. Bên Urbandale Speedway họ cũng có donate vé cho mình mời được rất nhiều người tới cho cái chương trình đây. Howard, you know, I think it's so important that we remind people that as we talk about mental health and as we talk about being a good friend, that suicide prevention is not about helping someone we know that's sad and depressed, but it's also about helping and reaching out to someone who's always laughing and happy. The way I pulled out of my mental health struggle was having friends like you. I know there are days, there maybe 3 days or 4 days you call me and I'm not answering my phone call. But I love the message you leave. I might not have the energy to call you back. I might not have the energy to talk to you, but I do have the energy to hear my message. And that pulled me through a lot of times, Howard. So thank you for your friendship.
Well, Julie, let me tell you something. People who know you very well, the kind of person you are, you got the biggest heart in the world. I mean, your kids are the great, the best, and it's like a little marriage we got going. We like to be on each other's head a little bit, our mind a little bit, but that keeps me going.
Yeah.
If I'm down and out, I got to call Julie, and that helps me a lot. Say I can call somebody up, and you're the first one I call, and you bring me up. And that when I get going, then it goes to my son, and stuff. Because I see my son every day. He comes down there, and like I said, if it wasn't for this coming up race like that, my son he's back to little Ricky, because right after passing to Ron, he sort of drifted away a little bit.
Oh.
And so and I finally got him with Dave, and then he sat down and says, "Hey, we need to get
Ricky back on the track.
We got to get him in a car."
I know when I was asking you, Howard, I said, "Oh, is Ricky going to wear his fire suit?" And he was like, "Oh, he can't fit it anymore."
Well, yeah, he gained a little bit of weight, but like I said, he's helping some kids out right now.
Because he's a private trainer for kids to be race car drivers, right?
Unfortunately, he was supposed to be here today. He has a kid coming up from Australia, flew in last night. And they're on the track right now, practicing for a big race coming up this weekend.
Yes.
And you say you got to have a good common sense with kids 12, 13, 14 years old, because they're just bringing up in life. They don't understand,
right?
What goes on in life really when you're that young.
Yeah.
They think they do, but they don't. And what brings my son down is behind the wheel of that race car.
So that's his therapy.
That's his therapy. He loves the car. He loves being in a car. And then the thing after Ron hit, and we started talking, and next thing you know, here we are. Something back he did, in 2017, 18 as a professional West Coast champion, and stuff like that. And people called me on, said, "What happened to Ricky?" And we just said, "Well, he
needed a break.
He needed time off."
Yeah.
So
and that's okay, Howard. I think a lot of times when we struggle mentally, we're afraid to take a break. You and I, we work for ourselves sometimes, and we don't even want to go call in sick. Right?
We can't.
But I mean, technically we can, but we feel so guilty.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the show today reminds people that, it's okay to take a mental health day off. I'm guilty. I was guilty of that. I would get sick, and mentally, and I still push myself to go to work. But I'm mentally well enough now to feel comfortable calling in sick.
Right.
And I think that's one thing about it is I have a staff that supports me and that knows my struggle, as your staff knows what you go through.
Right.
So after the commercial break, Howard, I'd love to continue this conversation and tell people more about the event that's coming up on the 17th.
Oh, sure will.
Julie, cảm ơn quý vị khán giả. Hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Howard Schlick mà nhắc nhở cho quý vị sức khỏe tâm thần là một cái sức khỏe mình phải quý nhất, mà cái tháng 9 là một tháng là kêu bằng Suicide Prevention Month. Julie hy vọng quý vị nhắc nhở quý vị để cho gọi điện thoại, bắt điện thoại đi thăm mọi người. Mình thấy đúng là cái người nào vui vẻ, cười tươi, có thể cái người đó cũng có bị bệnh mà cũng có cần cái sự giúp đỡ của mình. So Julie hy vọng trong tháng đây quý vị sẽ liên lạc với bạn, với gia đình, người trong gia đình mà có thể cần cái sự giúp đỡ đó. Cảm ơn quý vị khán giả Little Saigon TV.